Good morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. Going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. Once I'm done speaking here, Beth's going to come on, Mama's Options, and give you guys a breakdown of the macro environment, any news events that are happening over the course of this morning or that happened over the course of last night. That makes sense to be looking at. Should be going through any bigger picture items, ETFs, ETFs, individual names, commodities, etc. that makes sense to be looking at. Once that's done, I'm going to come back on. We're going to talk about the names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs, the technicals on those charts. We'll build an action plan for them, as well as go through the SPY and the FANG, the IWM, the QQQ, and the VIX. After that's done, I'll pass it back over to Beth, because I believe South Beach is still out or for today at least. And then she'll be going over a couple more, probably analyst plays or bigger picture items, etc. Just a continuation from this morning. After that, come back on. We'll do a quick little recap of everything that we talked about this morning, and we'll be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass over to Beth, guys, and I'll talk to you shortly. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. Wednesday morning here, pre-market at SpartanTrading.com. A hearty welcome to our new members, as well as those of you who are joining us with our live YouTube stream. We got a lot to talk about today. Some big picture stuff, and then on the fun side, I thought I would go, when I get back on the mic, do a little bit more of a deep dive in terms of cycles, because I know that I've gotten a lot of questions in that regard the last couple of days. So with that said, let's talk. Overnight, China, this is the foreign direct investment, guys. This is going to continue to go down until the Chinese stop what they're doing. Well, I shouldn't say stop. Look, just shh, be quiet, okay? We had great news with Bob and Tencent that I think is crazy bullish for both those stocks, and Bob in particular, because it's really on a, Bob is not a valuation for the guys. It's literally that simple. A lot of these Chinese names, JD, Baba, I don't know about Baidu though, but JD, Baba, these are ones that I'm focused in on. And we saw green Chinese tickers yesterday when the market was red. I want to see another green day, and we'll see if we get follow through continuation, right? Inflation numbers out of the UK were hotter than expected in terms of core inflation rate. You can see here, right? But month over month were as well, you can see. So, we're going to see this. So Powell's going to be talking before Congress again. And I don't know if he can use that transitory word anymore, but we'll see. If you do a deep dive, no matter what, even if you carve out like energy and stuff like that, and even if you carve out the automobile stuff, it's going to be interesting. Industrial production year over year was worse than expected, and as you can see here, month over month. So we're starting to see the Delta variant start to take hold again. Right? We do have our PPI numbers coming out. It was fascinating, the reaction to the bond market with the CPI numbers was down, then it stabilized. And the thing that really got the 10-year on the yips was the auction didn't go as well as expected. This is where we are right now, okay? Treasury purchases 10 and 22 and a half year, right? And then the testimony starts at 11 o'clock. These testimony, guys, when Powell does this, the statement is released, okay? And it should be released probably within the next half hour or so, FYI. We also have the beige book, which is notable, and we really have to pay attention to that, because this gives us a sense of what's going on in the different regions. And we'll see what the different Fed regions are seeing in terms of economic recovery, et cetera, et cetera. So this is actually going to be an important beige book, I think, as well, okay? So for me, the most important stuff, yeah, PPI, but Powell, the beige book's going to be the most important thing for me. Okay, all right, let's talk. Kathy, seriously, you've been freaking selling your Chinese stocks for months now, girl. Okay, now girlfriend, you know, they're down 60, 70%, some of these stocks. What do you want them to go down like 90%? This is disingenuous, guys. This is why you have to be really careful in terms of when you see stuff, you know, Prince, CNBC, et cetera, you know, we've already seen such a dramatic decline in some of these tickers that, like I say, Bob is a buy. 10% lower, I buy more. Now, I'm not saying that you buy it, you know, short term. I'm talking about long-term investment. And for me, this is what I think. All right? Okay. We'll see how this plays out. In the long run, this is actually net positive for the Chinese market. I know in the short term, it's like, oh my God. But in the long run, they had to get a handle on some of this stuff. Some of these guys that basically were outside their lanes and doing shit they shouldn't be doing, acting badly, some of these companies. I don't have a problem with this. All right. Here we go. Barron's article, transitory. Yeah, he'll try. I don't see how he can't. But that doesn't mean, even if they take the T word off the table, inflation's not a bad thing. I think the market would actually be really excited positively if they said, okay, well, the Fed wants to get ahead of this. If indeed this is going to be one of those massive spikes. Don't forget, we spent decades and decades trying to get inflation up, unsuccessfully, the Fed, right? Now that we're getting a little bit, I'm really sure they don't want to stop it dead in its tracks. I mean, we're not talking double digits here, guys, right? We'll see how this plays out. Tapering, market would like tapering, but not, you know, crazy ass stuff where you stop what's going on, but I'm just saying. Okay. Is this not a process of going, I mean, who likes to go in a mall now? Foot traffic and stuff like that. I'm just saying, is this not a part of a evolutionary process of online buying and stuff? You can basically try stuff on and return it. What's the big deal? There's so many ways in which you can do this. Who really? I just think a lot of these box stores, you know, are the way of the dodo bird, you know. I think that a lot of them just don't, you know, they're not necessary. They're not. Anyways. So where does that, but what does that mean in terms of where things go? I don't know. What's the future? We'll see, right? This is actually really great news, guys, with this. You know, they're serious about it, and God bless, you know. Largest carbon market, fantastic, right? I think it's fantastic. You know, there's some things that they do that are good things, right? And if China says, well, we want to get to, you know, net zero carbon emissions, I think that's a fantastic thing, right? You know, India would be lovely, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you know what I mean, right? All right. Child tax credit. This is actually a nice little tailwind, and it's going to be on the retail side, right? And just keep an eye on these different tickers. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's going to be more like a Nike, Foot Locker, Dick's Sporting sort of thing. Maybe the TJX. I'm in TJX and Ross, but this is for seasonality. We were in Nike for seasonality. This is actually a strong seasonal going to the end of the year. But with these tax credits that are going to come in, I think that's going to send some money that way. Look at the XRT, guys. Just so you know, we really have to take out all-time highs here, which comes in at 99.24. So amongst friends, let's say 100, and then we can start the next leg up. It's a monthly flag. I mean, you can see how it's grinding higher, holding where it needs. It held where it needed to hold on the pullback. So we'll see if that can continue to go on. Baba Tencent, fantastic news, guys. And Baba says, I like it. That's what they say, I like it. Up nicely. Let's see where it is right now. Up $7. This is a big deal. Love it. We'll talk about ways to play this as well. We've talked about it before with Tencent and Baba. That would be MCHI, right? MCHI is probably the one that I like the best with this type of trade. You know, I'm all in on KWeb, and I've been posting all kinds of different KWeb trades, longer term spreads, outright calls. This will be another juicy thing that get KWeb going as well. But MCHI is the one that has the most. And also it has Taiwan Semi, so just keep an eye on that. Okay, so what did Gail Kathy do yesterday? She's still selling this stuff 10 cents. Okay, fine, whatever. Shopify, Roku. A lot of this, I think, at least on Shopify, Shopify is expensive, guys. I mean, it's really expensive. It's got P multiple like 111, something like that. It's much higher. It's actually 25, 30% higher than Amazon. Come on, give me a break. Roku, I'm not so sure about this one, Kath. All right, but I love she's all in on Pass. She's all in on Coin, right? She's accumulating Fitch. She's definitely, to me, I think this is, you know, I understand why she did it when it was high up, but I'm not so sure this is where you want to be continue to be selling, but it could be because of percentage holdings. Maybe she wants to bring it down to 25% or 30%. I don't know, but I'm just saying. Okay. Melee. Melee's a fun. I love this company, guys, but it's really expensive on the option side. So no, can't do. And more KTOS. So there's, you know, continuation of the theme with her. She is selling PayPal though, what I found fascinating, as well as Open. She was buying this a couple weeks ago. So just tweaking. All right. So you know the rules here, great earnings, but the tickers sell off, and that's what's going on in the financials, right? Delta, let's talk about Delta. For me, Delta, okay, so Delta basically has to take out, which it's approaching. This is, we're talking about, you know, Monday's low here, reclaim stuff. It hasn't even taken out Monday's low. I can't get too excited. I am a long-term position holder in Delta on the option side. Delta trades out to 2022. I have some 2023s as well. All right, don't get me wrong, but wow. All right, yesterday, well, wasn't pretty obvious, right? Everything was red except for technology, right? And you can see here, MasterCard, Visa, we had the FinTech, right? Autodesk, Microsoft was fantastic. Western Union, this. I want to see this continue. And I also want to see some love going into the consumer staples, guys. I do. There's a strong seasonality for consumer staples. Let's do it, right? XLY came in, you know why? Because of Amazon and Tesla heavily weighted there. Amazon, I don't know if I would put in the penalty box, but the fact, and this is, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the cycles, that this is the sort of price action that it looks like when you see these sort of taking out all-time highs and then falling back. But the one thing that you also have to be aware of whenever you're talking cycles is volume. Okay, so it's just on the table. And like I say, I'll go over that when I come back on the mic. So what happened here yesterday? 51.49. This is the first time we've seen, you know, this is normally what happens when the market kind of sells off a bit. You see this kind of 50-50 type trade transaction. So today, right, it's about the bounce. What kind of bounce? Now, Apple, obviously, you know, fantastic news, ramping up production. We love it. They also did that battery pack thing, right? Apple's going higher, and you know, this is a conviction trade, and it's like Starbucks. Like, you know, pullbacks I buy. I bought some pullbacks. So, you know, I keep, you know, loading up, selling. I have my core. I have not sold any of my leaps. I keep saying that too. My 2023 trades, nope. I'm not selling those. I won't sell those. Okay, it's conviction trade. Now, come October, November, I might, but, you know, until that time. All right, let's see what's going on here in terms of analysts. What's going on? Okay. Only one top dog here out of Concord. That's on BIL. For me, I have a certain, it has to be 70+% success rate. They initiated that today, right? And then you can see here, upside, downside, you know, 10 to 20. And, you know, we'll see how that plays out. So let's make sure this is up to date here. And we can go over this as well. As you can see here, Nokia, neutral overweight. JP Morgan, guys. You know, I've talked to you about, you know, BlackBerry and Nokia is my, these are conviction trades as well. I just love them. Juniper, we got into that trade yesterday off of the option flows, right? Well, we just got an upgrade from Wolf. Carnival got an upgrade, yada, 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 Alta. Let's look at the downgrades though. Peloton from Wedbush. Okay. Conagra. They beat the crap out of Conagra yesterday, guys. At some point it's a valuation, but the problem with Conagra is they don't have the ability to, like Pepsi or some of these other consumer staples. Conagra doesn't have the ability to raise rates like some of these other consumer staples do. That's the problem. We know that they're having transportation issues. It's really, at some point it's going to be a buy for me, but no. Now, come on, Pepsi, you downgraded to Credit Suisse, right? Yeah, and then you raised your price level. Forget it. All right, let's move on. Okay, we've talked about this. We're officially entering the sloppy choppy time for the S&P. It also coincides with the cycles that we've been talking about, right? I don't know, like I say, quantitative easing just is a big deal. Right. So what's the big elephant in the room? The big elephant in the room is breadth. So we have right now going between a little battle going on between breadth and momentum. Now, the question is going to be is this basically reflective of something like this, a multi-year upside that's going to happen once we start to break? We'll have that little pullback, which we've talked about potentially, right? And then we start a multi-year uptrend again. I don't know, just saying. Is it potentially like what happened here with the financial crisis? I don't know. Let's just see. But I'm just showing you that we have two potential narratives going on. I'm bullish. I think stocks are the best game in town. So my narrative would be, yeah, we might get a 5 to 10% pullback, but then we start a multi-year rally. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so when this does happen, when it doubles, 1 year out, 88%, but then it's really fascinating, guys. This goes back to 1932. After doubling from a multi-year low, it's really not what you would expect. Now, granted, you have to kind of throw in here. So what you throw in here, guys, is the 1945, so the World War II. Because when you think about it, probably in terms of the expansion that we're seeing from the government to GDP, the most similar narrative we have is basically World War II, jumpstarting the economy. And then you can see 6 months out and then 1 year out. Okay, I think that's probably the closest narrative right now. Right? Okay, so records, yada, yada, yada. Not as bullish as you would expect once again. All right, after 10, 15 days with record close, first time in a year. Okay. This is the thing that really bothers me, breadth. Right? This is a huge red flag. Doesn't matter whether it's short-term, intermediate term, or long-term. When you don't have breadth, that means that smaller tickers are going up. And that's why we're in this momentum cycle, but it's all about technicals, right? Screw the indices, who cares? It's all about individual tickers, what they're doing, right? So what happens? Oi. That's all it is. Oi. After 5 days and past 3 weeks with a new high and less than 60% of issues with greater than 50 days. Oh my goodness. Oi. 1 year out, 83%, down 10%. Okay, so this is, don't underestimate the impact on breadth in terms of the market as a whole. But like I said, we look at individual tickers and ideas, and then we go from there. Just saying. Okay, heat map. Actually looking pretty good, lots of green, but to be honest with you, me, I like single digits. This is more accurate when you get single digits, guys, right? We have a little bit of rose, but all in all, this is a bullish heat map, right? And I would like to see, like I said, single digits. VXX actually is not overbought in terms of this optics, but fund flows, absolutely like nothing going on right now. Like literally nothing going on. Coming out and coming in. A little bit into the IWM. And we went over in detail about that whole construct with valuation versus growth versus Russell versus, NASDAQ, et cetera. VXN still mired in muck. We do have officially this double bottom in place. I don't think we go anywhere though, guys. I think we're just basically going to be in this range. And that's okay too. We know with the skew that there was protection being put on. So I just don't see any, there'd have to be something dramatic in order for that to get going, right? Okay, let's take a look at the bonds quickly. Yields are down across the board globally. You can see that, except they're up in the UK, right? 10-year, this is a TLT 20-year. As you can see here, it actually held this uptrend line, which is kind of interesting. I still am in it. I haven't gotten out of it yet. We'll see what the PPI numbers look. I don't think it's going to really matter. But anyways, 10-year yield still holding up this uptrend line. You cannot micromanage this. 5 years still within the range, right? 210. Yield curve was flattening. Now was steepening a little bit. We don't want it to flatten. The market hates it when it flattens. Here's the 1030, pretty stable right now. Here's a German 10-year. Its yields are actually coming down. Here's a 10 German US 10. Interesting candle, right? But it is holding this pivot right now. We'll see how that plays out. I don't know. You know, we can't micromanage, like I say. The Chinese continue to lower their interest rates, which is notable, right? And here you have the Chinese against US against the 10 and 10, which is kind of fascinating because it has reclaimed this pivot, right? So for me, I think we're just basically in this massive range. China wants capital inflows, that FDI number. So they're gonna, I suspect we're gonna be in a quiet period right now. Currency side, up and down and all around, right? Dollar, thankfully, this is the key pivot right there, right? And here you have the euro, same thing. It's a mirror reflection of what's going on with the dollar. And here you have your Chinese yuan. They are not devaluing beyond this triple top. That's important for the market as well. Okay, all right, stocks as a whole, futures are down. Well, hold on a second, let's update these. Here we go. There we go. So in the US, slightly up. Apple's helping out quite a bit. Some of the other earnings is helping. Overseas, the FTSE's down, stocks is up, right? And then you go over here. It's sloppy choppy all over the place. And that's what we would expect in this cycle, right, guys? All right, Fed, this is the DAX. We continue to watch this because 115,806 is the key pivot to break. I also want you to keep an eye on the stocks. This is the one that when the Feds, as a result of this, we do have a double top on this. This is a monthly. We really need to break this double top right here. Still looks fine. I mean, there's nothing going on here. Here's the Feds. I did find going back why we bounced off. This is the weekly last week. This actually goes back to 2014. And then we have a little bit here in 2006. So the key pivot right now on the Feds is this last week's low. Here's the EFA. This is small caps, nothing there yet. EEM, emerging markets, trying to reclaim. That's BABA, Tencent, you know the drill on that, one time on semi. MCIH, fantastic bounce off of the reversion to the mean. Keep an eye on that. That would be another BABA, you know, Tencent type thing, as well as the KWeb. All right, so those are the things you want to look at. There's another ETF that's out there that's interesting, is this KNGS. And this is kind of the competition to KWeb as well as MCHI, and you can see here, it has other different things in it. 14% BABA, 21%, 22%, 23% is Tencent, but it also has Facebook. So this is a new one that I'm kind of looking at right now as a new ETF, just to keep my eye on it going forward. Okay, my time is up. Time for me to pass it on to Spartan. Are you ready, sir?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, let's have some fun.
All right, guys, morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. All righty, here we go. So, thank you, Beth. Let's take a look at what we got going on today. If you guys are new to chat, the Discord link was emailed to you. If you don't find it in email, it's in your junk mail. And we'll talk about in regards to the rules and things like that when I do come on back on at the end, when we close down the YouTube stream. We'll go through all that stuff later on, okay? All righty, so let's take a look at what we got going on today. A couple different things. Looking at BABA, Teladoc, Qualcomm, Peloton, CMP, and oxbr this morning. So BABA, Alibaba and Tencent consider opening their ecosystem to another. Alibaba considers letting e-commerce customers buy goods with Tencent, WeChat Pay, also just gapping up on continuation from last day's move. So nice little move over over on that. We're actually, I think we did nail the bottom on BABA, so that's great so far. Teladoc, a solo platform to be integrated into Microsoft Teams environment, gapping up on that. Qualcomm gapping up in sympathy with Apple iPhone production increase, which is also why Apple's gapping up, FYI. Peloton, Webush downgrades Peloton, Webbush downgrades Peloton Interactive to neutral, lowers price target to 115. Small gap down there. CMP, Compass Minerals International shares are trading higher after the company announced it identified approximately 2.4 metric tons of sustainable lithium resource. OXBR, Oxbridge Reholdings are trading higher after Custodian Ventures disclosed a 9.9 active stake in the company. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So, first two names we'll be looking at are Teladoc and BABA. One sec, guys. I'm just going to set up this side chart here. There we go. All right, let's take a look. So BABA, Teladoc. And obviously we can see the market's gapping up a little bit, which we will talk about a little bit later. So BABA gapping up a continuation. Let's take a look at that daily chart. So we're just above EMA support, short-term EMA support into the 50 EMA level. So big level of resistance. We reclaim this range support level. Pretty much got room towards the top of it in the short term if we can get back above that 50 EMA. Let's open this back up. 50 EMA is already labeled. That's good, good, good. We'll get that 22, 223, 35. Okay. Let's take a look at this intraday. We need to place that level as well. Yeah. Okay, so pivot on the upside today, guys, gonna be that 217.47 level, which is the 50 EMA on the daily. So it's a big level of resistance. If this level is able to be reclaimed, we got room towards 221.19, the 223.50 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on BABA into the 214.88 to 211.47 on the downside. Overall on BABA, I am going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. I'm looking for a continuation higher, but we do have to reclaim that pivot. That's going to be a big level to get through this morning. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at Teladoc. All righty, let's take a look at this thing intraday. So what do we got? We got a basically push back into short-term EMA resistance on the upside, as well as that 50 EMA. Big levels to get through there. It's not quite there yet either. Okay. So pivot on the upside is going to be this 157.08 spot. Levels able to hold. They get room towards 161.24 to 164.55. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback to 154.15 to this 151 level on the downside. Overall on Teladoc, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher into that 161.24, and then we'll see if we can get through it today. Again, that's going to be, the 50 MA on the daily, huge level of resistance. It's had issues getting above that for quite some time. So it should be pretty interesting to see if we can break through that level of resistance today. So that's BABA. That is Teladoc. Let's take a look at the next two names, guys. Qualcomm, Peloton. Nice little movement on the SPY here this morning. All right, 142.50, guys. Going to be the pivot on the upside today. This level is able to hold to get room towards 143.88 to 145.50 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 140.83 to 139.28 on the downside. Overall on Qualcomm, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. Looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. Daily chart looks good. Range break set up for continuation. Like the look. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's take a look at Peloton here. All right, 116.69 pivot on Peloton to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. Room towards 114.08 to 111.73 on the downside. Able to hold 119.06 to 121.91. Will be tested on the upside. Overall on Peloton, going to be leaning a little bit on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower. If that pivot point's unable to hold, I think we can grind to the downside. I think it's not going to be a huge pullback from what it is from here. I mean, $115 price target probably gets a little bit more of a pullback, and then I think you'll probably end up getting bought up. But I'll be leaning a little bit bullish, neutral out the gate just because of that downgrade for now, though. So that is Qualcomm, and that is Peloton. Let's take a screenshot of these two, and let's move on to the next. All right, next two guys, CMP, OXBR. So nice gap up on this CMP. Literally, I think we are right above the recent range. Yep. Nice. Huge gap up. All right. 76.58. Okay, so 71.84 guys, pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 73.97 to 76.98 if we break that resistance to the upside. Unable to hold 68.02 to 64.24 will be tested on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind to the upside. I think the news is obviously quite bullish, and I'll be looking for a continuation higher if we can hold above that pivot point this morning. If not, we'll probably pull back, and then I think we'll get a little bit of a curl start to form. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. All righty, so that is CMP. Let's take a look at OXBR. All right, so 511 pivot to the upside today. Level's able to hold. We got room towards 590. If that level breaks, we can see further continuation to the upside into the 677 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 402 to the 302 level on the downside. Overall on OXBR, we're leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. if that pivot point can hold. We should see continuation to the upside, in my opinion. So that's what we'll be looking for there. So that is CMP, that is OXBR. Let's take a screenshot of these two. And let's move on to the SPY and the FANG, which we're getting a nice little push on the SPY right now to the upside. Let's take a look here. Okay, quickly just going to save this. Actually, there we go. All right, let me get up the, oops, that's what I want to do. Just going to link this. So we can take a look at the daily simultaneously. There we go. So what's going on in the SPY? A little bit of a pullback yesterday into short-term EMA support, which held up nicely. Daily uptrend still intact. All EMAs are still intact. Everything looks okay in that regard. Pivot to the upside today, 436.63, same levels as yesterday. Level holds 437.34. The 438.14 will be tested. Unable to hold 435.57 to 434.67 on the downside. I think we could have a potential a little bit of a push through the highs, but it seems to me that we're still going to be stuck with an inside day within this range. Just it is what it is. But you know, we could I guess get continuation through the highs. We'll have to see, but I'm thinking inside day anyways. Get rejected at the top of the range, probably stay within this, and continue to consolidate. I hope I'm wrong, but just from a technical perspective, that's what I'm seeing. So we'll see. I'll be leaning bullish neutral for now, looking for a continuation grind higher, and then I think we probably get rejected and pull back a little bit. And like I said, continue to consolidate within the range. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple, nice bullish engulfing candle from yesterday. And we're gapping up on that news, of course, which is going to be great for the Apple rolls that we have on, because now the 148s are in the money. So that's great. All right. So Apple, let's do a little bit of a Fibonacci extension here. There we go. Beautiful. All righty. So pivot to the upside today is 147.80 on Apple. Level it's able to hold. We got room towards 148.79. So that 149.84 level of resistance on the upside. Unable to hold on Apple. Oh, unable to hold on Apple. Look for a pullback to 147.01 to 146.18 on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. Oops. So that is Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon pivot to the upside today, 37 23 levels able to be reclaimed. We got room towards 37.61, unable to hold 36.80 to 36.37 will be tested. Leaning bullish neutral on Amazon. I think it's going to stay within the range, but it's got room to test the top of that recent range, consolidated range that it's been trading within. So that is quite bullish, looking for a bounce, I guess, in the short term. Daily chart, just bullish consolidative on the daily. That's all it is. Parabolic uptrend, yeah, that did break, but we still have this other uptrend intact. The EMA support's intact, so I think it should be okay. All right, let's take a look at Netflix, which it does have earnings next week on Tuesday. Just an FYI and a reminder. So it did push to the top of the recent range high yesterday, which we talked about it doing. I still do like the chart for continuation higher. 541.46 is the pivot to the upside. That level is able to hold. You got room towards 545.88. Unable to hold, we look for pullback into the 537.21 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. Pivot point holds, room for the next leg up. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a screenshot of this. And let's move on to Facebook. So Facebook's still flagging on the daily. EMA support's intact, uptrend's intact as well. A little bit of a downtrend break, I believe. We are still above it. Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. Quite consolidative here. 354.87, guys, is the pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 358.17 to 360.28 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 350.50 on the downside to that 346.93 level. Overall on Facebook, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher on the upside into the 358 to 360 levels. I think it looks good for continuation. Everything about this from a chart perspective, bullish consolidative. So looking for a grind higher essentially. All right, let's take a look at Google. $25.49.44 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 25.65.65 to 25.93.09. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 25.41 to 25.31.53 on the downside. Overall on Google, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So looking for a continuation grind to the upside today. Pretty much similar chart as well, better looking chart than Facebook, but stair stepping higher as Google does. All right, let's take a look at the VIX, IWM, and the QQQ. All right, guys, VIX. So VIX, we did get rejected at that 50 MA yesterday, 17 54 area. We didn't get quite to it, but a little bit of a pullback off of that. 1659 is going to be the pivot today. Levels unable to hold. 1551 will be tested. Able to hold. Well, obviously 1753, 1754. Room back to that 50 EMA. We're stuck between short-term EMA support and long-term EMA resistance, which is that 50 EMA. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. One thing to note is this little short-term downtrend as well is pretty much where that 50 EMA area is. Ignore it on this chart. It's not, I'm plotting correctly, but you can see obviously that's a big level of resistance. So we got to keep an eye on that. And then the uptrend off the lows as well. So it's pretty much a tightening wedge here in the short term. So got to keep an eye on those things because they can certainly affect the price action of VIX if it breaks one way or the other. But for now, it's tightening, and it should continue to tighten for the next couple of days, which means we'll probably be stuck within ranges on the SPY until that uptrend or downtrend breaks, which is why I'm inclined to think that we have inside days on the market. And you wouldn't know that unless you looked at the VIX. So that's why it's important to look at the VIX. IWM, actually, let's go QQQs first. QQQs. So obviously, because tech's bullish and QQQ's majority holding are the big cap tech, we have a decent looking bullish chart here. That's going to be testing all-time highs. And obviously you can see that there's a misprint candle, which is skewing the chart down, which is annoying to look at, but it is what it is. Here's your fib. All right. 364.03 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. We're in towards 365.50 to 367.88 on the upside. Unable to hold. 362.60 to 360.69 will be tested on the downside. Overall, in the QQQ is going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today. As long as that pivot can hold, I think we can grind higher to the upside. So that's what we'll be looking at today. Just the hold of that pivot for continuation. Yeah, I mean, we see Amazon push, we see Microsoft push, Apple push. I'm, thinking that Qs will be able to push to the upside. But because I think most things are going to stay within the range, we'll see how long that push can actually last this morning. May get a little bit of a pullback out the gate and then a curl back up to the upside. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in that regard. Another thing to be watching today, guys, out the gate is some of those names that got smacked yesterday, which were the travel names, airliners, opening names. See how they act, and yeah, we can go from there. See where the money rotates. If the money rotates from tech out after a little bit of a push this morning and into those names, I would not be surprised, because that's kind of what we've been seeing is range bound movements on the market and then rotation from one thing to another thing, back to the other thing, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed, sir. Okay. Let's continue on. Like I say, I want to spend a little time. We're going to go through some of the Chinese ETFs, but I want to spend a little time on going over the construct of cycles. It's something that you actually need to know about. You don't have to plot it or anything like that. A lot of times I pay for services like Kill and Borden's cycle work, but hers are off of fibs. But it's pretty simple once you get the idea of what's going on. But before we do that, K-Web reclaiming, we talked about that. These are the ones. Taiwan Semi, please keep an eye on this into earnings. It has earnings. And then NVIDIA Taiwan Semi. If we break this up trend line, I think we're going lower. So these are a couple of things that I'm thinking about right now. I think that we're going to see a catch up on some of these semi names. Okay. against NVIDIA. And I think NVIDIA is going to kind of, even though it's like a surrogate, I still think like with the Qualcomm, with the Taiwan Semi, with the AVGO, et cetera, that we're going to get that sort of catch up. So as we go into earnings as well, right? Okay. FANG, consolidative, nothing there, right? Right. So let's talk about cycles. We have timing and price cycles. In addition to that, it's a function, the time can be days, weeks, months, right? As well as you can have half cycle lows, intermediate cycles, all kinds of stuff. A lot of the stuff that I show you in terms of price targets and time, okay, it's like a symmetry, basically. You go back to previous ranges, see what those look like, whether there's consistency in those ranges, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, it doesn't matter. And I've showed you the work in terms of how I get my price targets. It's the equality, the symmetry, right? That is in essence a function of what the cycles are, right? But it gets more complex than that. Irregardless, yesterday, and this also goes to what Spartan was saying. Rather, I don't know. This is the first red flag of a potential cycle. We have cycles coming in. Don't shoot the messenger, but there are planetary cycles. Please, these are facts. I'm just giving you as I know it. What are the constructs? First thing is you basically have a spike higher, whether that's a breakout level, whatever. In this regard, we had all-time highs yesterday and then it pulled back. We got a topping candle. All right. The question is going to be is whether we continue to bump along this top end. So a cycle can be negated based off of price. Okay. Not too much time, but definitely off of price. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing you know. Another key component of cycle work is volume. Okay. You have to have in conjunction with price, volume that basically confirms it. So what would be on a daily break of the cycle? It would literally be a break of this uptrend line right there, in conjunction with a high spike in volume. Those are the two components that you look for. This does not matter whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, but clearly if you're getting a daily spike in volume, you're going to get a weekly spike in volume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it has to be robust. So for the SPY, one of the things that has to happen is we have to have a daily volume that takes out this right here, okay? That would be another red flag coming upon us. 3 red flags: unable to break this uptrend line, a spike, a break of this uptrend line to confirm, as well as a volume spike in the selling. So this is the anatomy initially of what a cycle, a clean cycle looks like, a very simple cycle. So how do we get there? It's time and price. Now, most of these trading platforms, okay, actually have the capacity to do this. They have, if you look here, like on Trading Views, they have fib time zones, right? If you look at Thinkorswim, it has the same thing, okay? It basically has, this is what this stuff is, guys. This is time series, okay? And this extensions, right? Ratios, right? So this is what these are timing cycles based off of, as well as price cycles based off of fibs. So you probably didn't know what the hell this stuff is, but this is what it's all about. So let's take a look here in terms of date. So what you're looking for is something like this. You're looking for trough to trough. You're looking for peak to peak, right? And then you're going back in time and say, okay, well, is there symmetry here on a cycle basis, whether this 21 days is a cycle or not? So you would go like here, this is trough to trough, 15, right? Here's another one right here. And this is kind of what it looks like, right? So you can see here from trough to trough, this 17 days, 21 days, 15 days. So you're looking at similarities in how that fits out. So if you look in terms of here where we are, right, in this, we're within this time frame, 15, 17, going on right now on the daily, right? And it can stretch to 21. Right? It's basically it's going back in time, looking at peak to peak, trough to trough, and then also looking at, well, when you get these breakouts, what does it look like? So that would be something like this, the symmetry of that. Right? That's what you're looking for. And you go back in time. I like to do it on monthly charts and weekly charts, but irregardless, a lot of people look at the daily cycles. So let's take a look here what Carolyn Borden's done here. Okay, and this is what hers are based off of price and time, but a lot of them are a function of fibs, right? And she uses a different trading platform than I do, but irregardless, you can see what it would look like, right? She's basically counting it out, right? So if you go from here to here, and then this here to here, that's what it gets you, right? So this is time. And then she also has, as you can see here on the measured side, this is price. So she has this week on the NASDAQ, on the daily, the 13th, 14th, okay, as timing cycles. Just because there's a timing cycle and a price cycle does not necessarily mean that that's the end of the world. All this tells you, and this is why I continue to mention this to you, is you basically have to look at this as if you are long the market, let's say you're long the Qs or whatever, basically you roll up and out, take your profits, and you basically have, you know, trailing stops, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, in order for this to basically pan out, there's things that have to happen. You have to break pivots, right? Like right here. You have to have the volume, et cetera, et cetera. But it's something to understand. So a lot of this, believe it or not, is incorporated in Aldo's. I'm not reinventing the wheel here, guys. This has been around for like forever and a day. Right? And you know, I've been doing this for decades, and I've been doing timing stuff for decades, right? What's nice about it now is that I can pay someone like a Carolyn Borden to do the work for me. I still like to do my own measured moves, and you know that, like in Amazon, Apple, et cetera. How I get my price targets based off of time and price, okay, extensions. But it's really something that you should take a look at, because sometimes you get action that makes no sense, and it's a function of a cycle, right? So let's take a look here. This is a great little website here. This is the financial tap, and it literally goes through the different types of cycles, right? And you can know that there's an anatomy of cycle in terms of emotion, right? And I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, how that looks like, the ebbs and flows of a market cycle, where that goes, okay? And the question is, okay, is it a cycle versus a technical trading, right? And here's amplitude cycle, cyclic length, right? So you can have half cycle lows, daily cycle, and I talk about this, half cycle, intermediate cycle, yearly cycles. The time frames vary based off of what you're looking at, and each one is tailor-made for that individual ETF, individual indice, individual stock. It's not something that you basically say, okay, well, if this is the same for the S&P, then it's going to be the same for Apple. It doesn't work that way, all right? Each one has their own nuance, okay? So there's and you know that there's investor cycles, and this gives you an idea of when I'm talking about these different cycles, well, what does it exactly mean, right? So, and this is what it would look like. So this would be like what we're seeing in the S&P, and then basically coming down to a daily cycle low, right? There's left translation and right translation. So this is right, okay, and this would be left. When the market is going up, it's right translated. When the market's going down, it's left translated. Okay? And that should make sense just by direction. Okay? So with that information, a lot of this also has to do with extensions, okay? But it's really important that you understand this does play into some of the price action. Obviously, if you have a left translated cycle and it starts to sell off, that is a bearish narrative, and you should start looking on the downside for price targets. Okay, and it's really, you know, each one is going to be different, but this is a great website that gives you the basic definitions and how it plays into the market. Investopedia also has you know, in there, the 4 phases, but this is more emotional. So that would be accumulation, markup, right? Distribution, right? And then mark down. And this distribution is like, you know, exuberance type things. Right? So irregardless of what you're looking at, every single stock, ETF, index can fit into these types of cycles. And you basically just have to get a handle on it in terms of what you're looking at, right? So hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on. Wow, like COVID nails that. Satrini, thank you. Wow, it's a big deal. Cool. All right, so let's take a look now at Apple, right? You know, this is a conviction trade for me. I've been shouting this out for months. And this is going to do what Amazon did on the breakout, in my opinion. And we continue to add different out of the money delta trades. End of the month, August, we got all kinds of stuff on with Apple. And we have both seasonality as well as price. Okay, so if you look in terms of how I got to this price target here, basically it's the symmetry off of the last time it broke all-time highs. It went up, I know, 75%, $62. And that's where we get that 206 level. Right? Now the question is also a function of time, right? So when it did take out the all-time high, how long did it take? And we went over this before. Believe it or not, it only took 3 months, right? So if you're looking at that, is it potential, right? That in 3 months' time, that we could be up to close to 200, absolutely, right? You could do maybe 4 months if you wanted to, but, and this gets us into that sweet spot that I've been talking to you about in terms of October. For me, October is a seasonality as well as a timing cycle. So if you go back here, and you can see right here, right? And if you go all the way to here, you've got that mid and beginning of November as the sweet spot in terms of where this thing can go, right? All of these, with the data that I have, with what I use as a strategy, gives me trade ideas that I relay to you. I've been very articulate and say we're now entering very strong seasonality, tailwinds for Apple. I've been very aggressive in terms of posting trades for you guys, delta trades, right? And then we go from there. And this is how you incorporate time and price, right? With symmetry, which is equal to cycle. So price target is what I'm looking for in terms of price cycle, as well as time cycle. Now, this has nothing to do with fibs. I only look at Carolyn Borden's work because it's great to look at that. And like I said, I got a dude who only looks at planetary shit, okay? And don't shoot me, but he has the same, his cycles on the planetary side are lining up with Carolyn Borden's cycles on the fib side, but it does not matter unless you meet the requirements. Breaking an uptrend line and volume. Those are the 2 things that you must have. If you do not have it, then the cycle is null and void, and then you wait for the next cycle to come in. Literally that simple. So when would the next cycle be? Well, the next cycle would line up July 2021, okay? So if this cycle gets passed, doesn't meet any of the parameters, then the next cycle date would be a week out, okay? And like I say, you don't sell based off of a cycle. The only thing you do is you're aware of it and you raise your stops and you roll out, take profits, et cetera, et cetera. If you do get the breakdown of the uptrend line with a high volume, more so than you've seen, then you start looking on the downside as to where things could head out. And then you could look down here at something like this, okay? So I am not saying that because of a cycle that you get out of anything. I'm just saying that you have to be aware of it, right? So let's take a look now. I think she has it on Apple. Take a look. And once again, guys, this is why it's fun. I mean, I don't have to pay for any of this stuff. So she's got Apple up here on timing. Daily, no. So here's the SPX. IWM, nope. So here's her SPX. Same narrative, right? She has a timing cycle coming in, 14th, 15th. This is the SPX. And down here as well, right? So 13th to 15th is a timing cycle. That gets passed on, then the next cycle is 22nd. But if you look in terms of price and time, the end of the month, July 30th to August 2nd. And it may be that that's where we go to. But the only thing I can tell you is if you look in terms of the we know that for SPX, we're entering a sloppy choppy, okay, from the 15th all the way to the 20th. So for close to 2 weeks, sloppy choppy, right? Down and up and all the way around, right? So all of this would also combine, right, to tell us the same thing here. Now, if you notice, this is the 21st, and if you go back to what we saw earlier, right, in terms of the NASDAQ, okay, we also have, as you can see here, the 21st. So that may be when the cycle kicks in on the downside. It's just something that you have to be aware of, right? Apple, I love it. You know, I love it. Basically, you know, we're holding the pivot, the breakout pivot. I want to see on this breakout, guys, we've got to start seeing these large, massive candles. Okay, now these are monthly, and I understand, but I mean, this is not good enough for me. I want to see more. I want to see it really push. I'd love to see it into earnings, right? Just continue to push higher. And as you see here, this was an earnings date, earnings cycle right here. Nice earnings, and it continued on. If you look on the weekly side, and this is also big picture versus little picture, okay? You can have red candles, right? Just be aware of that, right? And it's okay. One second, guys. South Beaches. Okay, so that's that. All right, let's take a, I want to talk a little bit before my time is up. I'll talk a little bit about Amazon. Amazon is consolidative, no question about it. It's holding the breakout levels, fine and dandy. You know, I still think we go higher. I'm a little disappointed though, but I think we get a push into earnings, right? And then we go from there. I don't like that candle there, but if you notice right here, it can and does do this. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. Okay, it does do this from time to time, but it normally does this, guys, at the as mid to the 3/4 of the way up. So that's not what we want to see. And the unfortunate thing is, in the past, it has broken back down. Right? We have to keep an eye on Amazon. I'm a little disappointed. Like I say, we popped and dropped. This also is an anatomy of a potential, okay, cycle top, right? We have not, no damage has been done yet, but you got to start looking at your uptrend lines. And the thing is right here is the volume bar too. So these are a couple things that make red flags for me that we might get a short-term cycle pullback, right? and then start up again. And that could simply be moving back down. So let's say down here. So 34.60s. I don't ideally want to see a break below that 35.50 pivot. But this is on the daily. This is a red flag for me right now. Okay. And we'll just have to see how this plays out. Okay. I know that it's going to be up today, but it's just unimpressive. So for me now, right, the pivot is right here. I mean, I can't really get excited until we take out these double tops. Okay, this 37.60. And then on the downside, where if we get down to here, maybe 36.10 or 35.50. I mean, I'll be adding to my butterflies. Until that time, I'm kind of on the sideline right now. Right. I will, look at potentially, scalping some stuff, which I have been doing off of the pivots that Spartan gives on the pre-market. Okay, and my just so you know, my time is up. I apologize once again. I ran over a little bit, Spartan. I apologize. Are you ready?
No worries at all, Beth.
Are you okay? You ready to go?
Good to go. Alrighty, guys, what's going on? Morning. So let me just pop up the screen share here. There we go. So let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. A couple different things. Pre-market action plans typed up. So let's quickly just rip through that. I'll show you guys what we did. So there it is. You can just pause it if you're watching the YouTube stream and read it. Obviously, all the charts are posted, etc. All right, let's quickly rip through this stuff. All right, BABA, Teladoc, Qualcomm, Peloton, CMP, OXBR names that we're looking at this morning. Gapping up, gapping down. BABA, Alibaba, and Tencent consider opening their ecosystem to one another. Alibaba considers letting e-commerce customers buy with Tencent and WeChat Pay, also just gapping up continuation. Teladoc solo platform to be integrated with the Microsoft Teams environment, gapping up. Qualcomm gapping up in sympathy with Apple iPhone production increase. Peloton, Webbush downgrades Peloton Interactive to neutral, lowers price target to 115. CMP, Compass Minerals International shares are trading higher after the company announced it identified approximately 2.4 million metric tons of sustainable lithium resource. Nice, actually, big gap up on that one. OXBR Marie Holdings shares are trading higher after Custodian Ventures disclosed 9.9% stake in the company. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. All right, so first two we're looking at today, guys, are going to be BABA and Teladoc. Oh, there we go. So BABA, Teladoc, let's take a look. BABA stock's gapping up. 217.47 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. They got room towards 221.19 to 223.50. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 214.88 to 211.47 on the downside. Overall on BABA, leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point's able to hold. So looking for a hold of the pivot point for continuation higher, essentially. Pivot point today on the upside on BABA, guys, FYI, is that 50 MA on the daily. So it's a big level of resistance. All right, let's take a look at Teladoc. Pivot to the upside today. 157.08. Level holds room towards 161.24 to 164.55. Unable to hold 154.15 to 151 will be tested on the downside. Leaning bullish on Teladoc, looking for continuation higher. 161.24 again, 50 MA on the upside. So huge resistance that's going to be coming into. We'll see if we can get through it, but I do think it has room to test it this morning, in my opinion. Qualcomm, Peloton. Let's take a look at these two. Qualcomm 142.50, guys, pivot on the upside today. Levels able to hold 143.88 to 145.50 will be tested. Unable to hold 140.83 to 139.28 on the downside. Overall on Qualcomm, leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. Peloton pivot 116.69 on the downside. This level is unable to hold, room towards 114.08. That level breaks, we can see further continuation on the downside towards 111.73. Able to hold, look for a push back to 119.06 to 121.91 on the upside. Overall on Peloton, leaning bearish, neutral, looking for a continuation pull to the downside today. Let's take a look at the next two names, which are CMP and OXBR. Oops. So CMP, guys, pivot to the upside today, 71.84. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 73.97. That level breaks. We can see further continuation on the upside into the 76.55 level. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 68 to 64.24 on the downside. Overall leading bullish only if we can hold above that hold above that pivot point this morning. Otherwise, I think we get a pullback and a curl. OXBR pivot 511, levels able to hold. 590 will be tested to 680 area. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 402 to 302. Looking for a pop topping, take the stock short on OXBR. I think it gives back that move this morning. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG market, guys. We are gapping up. Same levels as yesterday, pretty much. And by pretty much, I mean literally the exact same levels as yesterday. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste what I had yesterday. No point in typing out this exact same thing again. But anyways, basically 436.63 pivot on the upside today. Levels able to hold 437.34 to 438.14 will be tested. Unable to hold 435.57 to 434.67 will be tested on the downside. Overall on the market, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher. I do think we stay within the range, but we do have room to push to the top of that range this morning, and then we'll see what happens essentially. All right, let's take a look at Apple. I can't see them not taking some profits on Apple this morning, but we'll see what happens. 147.80 pivot level holds, room towards 148.79 to 149.84. Unable to hold, look for a pullback into the 147.01 to 146.18 on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. So that is Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon pivot to the upside is going to be the 37.23 level. Levels able to hold, they get room towards 37.6125 to 37.8354 on the upside. Unable to hold, 36.8088 to 36.3705 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Amazon, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. All right, let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix pivot 541.46, levels able to hold 545.88 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 537.21 to 530.65 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook pivot on the upside today, 354.87, levels able to hold 358.16 to 360.28 will be tested. Unable to hold 350.50 to 346.93 on the downside. Overall on Facebook, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point's able to hold. And last but not least, guys, let's take a look at Google here. Google pivot on the upside is going to be the 25.49. Levels able to hold, they got room towards 25.65 to 25.93. Unable to hold 25.41 to 25.31 will be tested. Leaning bullish neutral on Google, it is, flagging out to the all-time highs here. Looks good for continuation. So we'll be looking for continuation higher. And then let's go through the VIX, IWM, etc. VIX pivot 16.59, unable to hold 15.51, able to hold 17.53 will be tested. No, not leaning any direction, just using it for direction on the market. Q's 364.03 pivot, level holds 365.50, 367.88. Unable to hold 362.60 to 360.69 on the downside. And then last but not least, guys, IWM, which I believe I forgot to go over with you guys, but 224.37 on pivot, level holds 226.41, unable to hold 222.94, 221.62. And I'm actually leaning bullish neutral on the IWM. I think can get a little bit more of a bounce today and potentially lead the market. Or actually push while the market kind of pulls back a little bit. But anyways, so that's the SPY, that's the FANG, those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. If you do have any questions, you can go to SpartanTrading.com. Otherwise, thanks for watching the pre-market stream, and we'll talk to you guys next week.